you want to excel in business, if you want to excel in athletics, if you want to excel in academics, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Nick has spent the majority of his life perfecting the game of football. He spent his college days at the University of Wisconsin and was drafted by the New Orleans Saints in the 2012 NFL Draft in the 4th round with the 122 overall pick. However, it wasn't football that defined Nick a natural talent turned profession. Real estate has always been in the blood of Toon. It was Nick's first-hand experience with relocation that built the foundation for his real estate career. His own personal experience as a professional athlete and appreciation for privacy and discretion has made Nick's transition into the real estate industry a natural fit.
You have to have a drive and have to have a level of commitment in order, to accomplish that. And that definitely has helped me in my real estate career, learning how to operate in periods of.
All right, guys, we've got a very special guest today. Nick Toon is with us. Nick is a former D1 athlete, All-American, Wisconsin player, went to the NFL, was drafted by the Saints. This is a guy that I had the opportunity to meet at the Limitless Conference in Arizona last year, which is a conference by Tarl Yarber and Ken McElroy. It's just an awesome opportunity to meet other like-minded investors. And quickly kind of hit it off with Nick, just really because, what I'm really about, what I put this show on for is to show people how you can transition from a W-2 or a business to owning real estate and investing in real estate, developing real estate, and kind of just showing you how much opportunity is out there for you. So Nick, I'm really excited to have you. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. It was a pleasure to meet you in person last year when you were down here for the Limitless event. And happy to be here. Excited to see what we have in store for you. Cool.
So, I really like to just set the stage a little bit for the audience. Not everybody knows you. You grew up playing football, son of an NFL player.
Yep.
Al Toon, who is pretty famous over in Wisconsin, played a lot of years in the NFL. Kind of what was it like growing up, as an NFL son, and what was that like, for you early on?
Yeah, so my dad played. My dad also played at Wisconsin. So I was actually born in New York, and so my dad played college ball at Wisconsin. Got drafted by the Jets in 1984, and I was born in New York during the season out there. But both of my parents went to Wisconsin, and I, like you said, went to Wisconsin as well. So I spent most of my childhood in Wisconsin, growing up there after my dad had retired. And, I didn't really, it's a question I get asked all the time. So as a kid, I didn't know any different, that my dad was my dad. And, I knew at a pretty young age that, he played football and that was part of what he did. But, it wasn't really until I got older that, I was able to realize and conceptualize that, my dad was different than most, other dads. So when I got into football, it's pretty cool to have someone that had success at a high level and have, someone that, could help me excel athletically. It wasn't until I got older that I really appreciated that, as kids, everyone, wants to be rebellious and not listen to their parents. But I got older and got a little bit smarter. I'm like, hey, he probably knows what he's talking about. So I should listen to him. And, but it was cool. It was cool. It was a fun childhood. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I can relate quite a bit. My dad was also very successful. He was a plumber.
There you go.
So, very similar competition wise, we were trying to fix the toilet faster and things like that.
There you go.
But that's awesome, man. I mean, it must have been, did you feel like it was a lot of pressure on you to, to go play football, be D1, potentially go to the NFL, or are you just competitive by nature and it's just natural?
Yeah, that's also a question I get a lot. Never had any pressure from, my parents. My parents and my dad in particular. There was never any pressure from them athletically. They always placed a huge emphasis on, education, getting your education, doing your best in school. And I played a lot of sports growing up. So I played, started kind of with soccer. Soccer was kind of my first, big sport. Played lacrosse, ran track, played basketball, baseball. So I did everything. And the reason I bring that up is because my dad was adamant about not letting me play football until junior high. So I actually didn't even start playing football until I got into sixth grade. And at that, as soon as I started playing, I knew, that was the game I wanted to play, and the rest kind of is history from there. But in terms of pressure, I never had pressure athletically from them, and as I just alluded to, he didn't even want me to play football until I got a little bit older. So it was fun. I never felt a large amount of pressure from my parents.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So was real estate, something that you had in the family at an early age as well, or was it more just sports and kind of focusing on your main thing, which was the sports in your family?
Yeah. So my dad actually got into real estate as he was nearing the end of his football career. So he started in student housing actually in Wisconsin, and purchased a number of student housing homes around campus in Madison. And that was kind of his first experience in real estate. Ended up selling those down the road, but that was kind of what leapfrogged his real estate career. And, he's done student housing, residential development, and, kind of moved into commercial as his, real estate journey progressed. But I was surrounded by real estate from the time I can remember. That was real estate's always been a big piece of my family's investing philosophy. So not something that I could say I discovered on my own. My dad got into real estate early on, and I've been around it ever since. And we actually moved every 2 or 3 years growing up. So we kind of took advantage of the opportunity to do that as I was coming up. But yeah, I've been around real estate, my entire life.
Okay, man, that's a good combination, sports and real estate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Two of my favorite things are there.
That's right.
Cool. So I guess for those listening, or, they got kids that are growing up right now, what's one thing that you would recommend for families or kids that are, have dreams of competing at the highest level, whether it's in sports or real estate or business? What's one thing that you feel that has really helped you kind of get to where you are in multiple different fields now?
Yeah, I've always been extremely driven. I was like that, as a kid. That's always just been, part of who I am. And, I think that, I think that drive is something that has to come, from you internally. And, there's different things that drive people. There's different things that motivate people. And, I hear people talk about all the time, you need to find your why. And, for me, early on, and as it relates to sports, having a father that was as successful as he was at sports, I wanted to, prove to myself that I could also do it at that level. And that kind of was, what drove me, was like, hey, my dad did it. I know I can do it too. And like I said, I've just always been a driven person. And, always just wanted to excel at anything it was that I did, that I had an interest in. And, sports was that for me early on. And, I knew pretty early on in my sports career, I was going to get into real estate at some point, when I was done playing. And, the transition happened, and, we've just kind of grown from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so big. Just, the internal drive, first of all, is something that can't really be taught. But it also, it comes from that exposure to just surrounding yourself with the right people. Whether you have that in your family, is great, but a lot of people don't. And now more than ever, there's so many opportunities out there, to have conversations with people like Nick. Reach out on Instagram, or reach out to people that you see that are being successful, or even just following them, seeing how they're living and what they're doing. That wasn't around when you were, in high school, or coming up either. So
no, I mean, we're so, as you said, we're so fortunate now to be as connected as we are. There's positives and negatives to that, but one of the positives is you can get on social media and reach out to someone that's doing something, whether it's sports or real estate or whatever it is, business, it doesn't matter. Like, there's so much access to information now, that there's really no excuse now at this point. You have direct lines of communication with people, because of how connected we are on social media and the internet. So it's a really cool time
sure.
to be alive.
For sure.
Yeah.
So kind of just picking your brain a little bit about, your experience in the NFL, going back to the exposure thing. You were around some of the best players ever. You were playing with Drew Brees, Marcus Colston, Mark Ingram. You were coming into the locker room with some, incredible players, people. What was, tell us a little bit about that experience and kind of something that you took away from that experience, kind of that's helped you be successful in your own career and your own life.
Yeah, obviously childhood dream to play at that level. And, it was fun to be able to live out, my childhood dream of playing, professionally for an extended period of time. I know there's a lot of kids that have aspirations of playing, a sport professionally, be it football, basketball, whatever it is. And, I was super fortunate to have the opportunity to do that. But, one of the biggest takeaways I'd say that I took from, being around, other guys that had worked, some of the best in the world at what they did is everybody at the collegiate level is good. I don't care if you're playing D1 or D3, like you're good at the sport, that you're playing. If you're playing a sport in college, and when you get to the professional level, like you're one of the best in the world at what you do. And, in order to get to that point, there are, you have to have a level of commitment and dedication to your craft in order to excel at your chosen sport at that level. And there are very few guys, at least from my experience, that play at that level that don't have a abnormal level of commitment and dedication to their craft and their process. And that really, is what stood out to me the most. I would say, if I had to highlight one piece, is that, the people that are doing something at a high level, as it relates to sports or business or whatever it is, they're different. There's something different about them than the rest of the people. And the way that they approach things, the way that they think about things, their level of commitment and drive to accomplish their goal is different than the general population.
Yeah, no, I had an opportunity to listen to, Cliff Averill talk at a meetup like a couple of weeks ago in Seattle. And it was the same idea. Like, people don't understand the fact that, when you reach that level of success, it's, from the moment you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed, it's not just playing on Sunday, right? It's, 12, 14-hour days of weights, watching film, massage, whatever it is, just to get your body right.
Yep.
And
yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was playing, so to give some context to that, when I was playing, I was typically, depending on the day, but most days during the week, I was at the facility, no later than probably 6 a.m, and I didn't finish my day until probably 8 or 10 at night. During the regular season. And it's not all, you're not lifting weights for, 12, 14 hours a day, but, it's film, it's lifting weights, it's practice, it's recovery, massage, chiropractic, everything that goes into that. I mean, and I wouldn't expect someone that hasn't experienced it to understand the level of time commitment that it takes to excel at that level. But, it's definitely a full-time job.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, that sounds like you had that drive from a young kid and just kind of continued to hone that skill, and just kind of combine the skill set with your talent and your drive, to make it to the NFL. Would you say that's kind of like the biggest thing that's allowed you to have success in the real estate world as well? Or have you taken that kind of learning and applied that now in your real estate business?
Yeah, absolutely. The drive piece of it, I think, is a huge component. And I've said this, but if you want to excel in business, if you want to excel in athletics, you want to excel in academics, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Like, you have to have a drive and have to have a level of commitment in order, to accomplish that. And that definitely has helped me that drive that I have has definitely helped me in my real estate career. And learning how to operate in periods of adversity, when things don't necessarily go as you expect, or as you had planned, which is something that, happens in sports all the time. That definitely has been an aspect that I've taken from, the athletic side, and transition that into business and helped, that piece has helped me in business quite a bit as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd say the drive, and then learning to deal and cope with adversity and adjust when things don't necessarily go as you expect them to go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, following you on social media and kind of seeing what you're doing now with some of the bigger projects, I'm sure it wasn't just a smooth transition. One day you're building these, multi-million-dollar homes, going straight from the NFL to doing that. Maybe talk a little bit about your transition and kind of how you first got your foot in the door with real estate. Was it in Wisconsin, first of all, were you kind of being a broker?
No, so I started, so I guess you could say it was in Wisconsin. So the first piece of real estate that I purchased was in Wisconsin. I bought my first house there probably in 2000, would have been 2013 or 14. And that was the first piece of real estate that I personally had purchased. So I guess you could argue that, yes, I started my real estate career in Wisconsin. But in terms of the, investing and flipping and developing, that started in Arizona while I was still playing. Like 2015, 16 is kind of when, that started. And, I think so many people, and I'm guilty of this as well. I really didn't start posting and stuff on social media until I got to, a point, where I'm at now, where, I feel like people want to see what I'm doing, but that's not where I started.
Right.
And I talk to guys all the time. I have people that reach out to me all the time, like, hey, how'd you, get to where you're at, and so on and so forth. And, we started with little 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom condos. That's kind of what I started with, not only in terms of on the investing side, but also learning how to, fix and flip, and then, eventually moving into development. So it doesn't need to be on this huge, large, scale, and, in order to learn the process, but, you can work your way up, you can get there. But, I tell people all the time, like, I think it's better to start with something that's smaller in scale, something that you can, wrap your hands around. If you make a mistake, it's not, gonna put you in a situation where, now you have to rebuild in order to continue investing. So it's okay to start small, learn the process, and then, move up and scale up from there.
Okay. So when you were buying like condos, the 1 and 2 bedrooms, were those like buy and holds or flips, or kind of what was your play kind of going into that?
Yeah. So when we started, the short-term rental market had just kind of started taking off here. And my philosophy with those was, we bought stuff that was deferred. So stuff that needed, to be fixed up. And the first few projects that we did, we bought little condos that were, needed work, went in, did the remodel, and then short-term rented them for 2 years, because that's how long you had to hold stuff at that time. And then sold them and moved them into bigger projects and did the same thing. And then we got to a point right before COVID. We had acquired 5 properties. We had 5 short-term rentals that we had done that with, and, it scaled up to that point, and, we're operating them as short-term rentals. And when COVID started, I wasn't sure, how it was going to affect the market. We ended up selling all 5 of those. And since then, we've really kind of focused on the development piece, and just getting in and out of stuff, and kind of building a cash, cash reserve account, and moving into bigger projects. And at the point now where, I actually have a project I'm working on now in North Phoenix that we're probably going to hold on to after we get it finished up. But that is kind of at a high level.
Wow.
That was my, course of action from when we started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were your the Airbnbs, were those in Wisconsin, or were those in Arizona?
All in Arizona. Yeah, all in Arizona.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved to Arizona pretty quickly after your playing career, and got kind of got right to it with the real estate?
Yep. So I ended up selling that place in Wisconsin probably a year and a half, 2 years after I bought it. I I love Wisconsin. I love going back to visit, but it's way too cold for me to live
Yeah.
there. So I knew I wasn't going to be there full time. So I sold that, bought a place out here in 2000, what about 2015 when we bought our first place out here, and then this has been home for me ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arizona it's a good place to be.
Yeah, it's
I'm in Seattle, and it's pretty cold and miserable right now too. So
I don't miss that.
I guess that ties a little bit into Wisconsin and Arizona are two very different markets, right? So Wisconsin, Midwest, I know a lot of people that go there for cash flow and invest in apartment buildings or smaller deals just to kind of get the better cash flow.
Yep.
Arizona is the one that's had some of the best appreciation in the country in the last 10 years since you moved there.
Yep.
Has that played into, other than the weather, which is obvious and it's a great reason in itself, but does the cash flow versus appreciation idea guide any of your investing decisions? Are you focus more on one or the other at this point in your career? Or maybe talk a little bit about how you think about those two things.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. I think it really just depends on, what someone's individual goals are. I actually love Wisconsin. I love where I grew up from a cash flow perspective. Homes, in comparison to where, stuff is in Arizona are much more affordable there. As you alluded to, you're not going to get the crazy appreciation that you get here, but you can get great cash flow, and you can acquire stuff at much more reasonable numbers. And so I think Wisconsin's a great place to look if you're looking more for cash flow. Arizona right now, unfortunately, with where interest rates are at and where the prices of homes are at right now, it is very difficult to cash flow on single family stuff here unless you're operating in the short term rental space or midterm rental space where you can juice your returns a little bit more with generating higher revenue. But
right.
There's also, I don't want to say downsides, but there's challenges to that piece of the business as well because it's more management intensive. Not to say that it's not a great business because I've done it. I think it is a great business, but it really just depends on what your goals are. But for me, and this is my personal opinion. I really believe that investing you can invest in more than just assets. So I believe that you should be investing into your education, your business, and yourself until you create a situation where you have a money problem. I like to say. So when you get to a point where you've invested in your business and yourself so much that you have a problem where you're like, okay, I have this cash, I don't know what to do with this cash. I think that is really when it's a great time to start focusing on buying and holding assets. Not to say that you can't do it or shouldn't do it earlier. I think both philosophies can work. It really just depends on ultimately where you want to be. If your goal is to buy 2, 3, 4, 5 properties, get them paid off, and ride off into the sunset, great. You probably want to start buying and holding a little bit sooner rather than later. But if you have aspirations to have this a huge portfolio and huge cash flow, I think you want to create a whatever your business is. Like I'm licensed, I sell real estate, I consult, I develop, I fix and flip. So I do a lot of things, but you want to create a situation on whatever it is you're doing to bring money in the front door, where you have a money problem before you start investing. Cause I think your velocity of your ability to maintain and buy and hold more assets can go faster, obviously, if you have the more money you have. So it really just depends on what your goals are, long term.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because there's a lot of information out there. People just want things to happen so fast, right? So And it's not a bad thing. It's good to, want to compete and want to, be successful as soon as possible. But if you really want to have that solid foundation, like putting the cart before the horse and just like going out there and figuring out any way that you can acquire real estate, even if it's creative and you're like buying something that's, maybe not the best property just so that you can own something, isn't necessarily going to be the best long-term strategy.
Exactly.
And I totally agree. Like building that foundation, make sure you understand, the game, you understand the numbers, maybe help other people find some deals first, or, find a way to really understand and build that base and that foundation so that you can get these, long-term loans and get this, the lowest possible interest rates. Maybe they're, not as low as they used to be, but still,
for sure.
If you can get 7 to 8%, it's still better than 12% if you're not, qualified, or you're doing something that's, where you don't have the, the right debt to income ratios and things like that. So
yeah, absolutely. And as well as anybody, it's there are ways to buy real estate with little or no money. I'm not debating that fact. It's totally a possibility, but if you really want to scale, you really want to grow a portfolio, and you want to do this long term, you have to make money, and you have to be bankable. And depending on what part of the country you're in, like Arizona, like where we're at, I know where you are and where I am. Like real estate is just expensive, and so if you want to buy real estate in expensive markets, you have to figure out a way, to be able to do that and sustain your ability to do that long term, if that's what your goal is. And so that's why I've placed an emphasis on, hey, like, let me figure out how, I can consistently, earn what I want to earn so I can invest in the areas that I want to invest in. And that's why I've approached it that way. But again, there's not a right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, the development stuff you're doing is super interesting, super exciting. Been watching, like I said, some of your videos and content that you're putting out.
Yep.
What was that first development deal? What did that look like for you? And kind of how did you get your feet wet with that?
Yeah, so I kind of took a book out of, my parents' page. Like I said earlier, we moved every couple of years, growing up. And one of the first, I would say, it wasn't like a true ground up development, but I'd say one of the biggest projects I did was a house that my wife and I and my family actually lived in. So we bought a house here. It was an old 1950s ranch house. It had been updated like in the early 2000s, but great lot, great location. Definitely needed some work, and we lived there for about a year and a half, and ended up moving out and just did a full renovation. And that was a big learning experience. It was the first large scale project that we had done. Opened up walls, found a bunch of load bearing stuff that we didn't know was there. The sewer line had actually cracked and was leaking underneath the slab, so we had to cut the slab open and replace the sewer line underneath the slab. But ended up making some money there, and it was a good learning experience. And from there we just kind of have continued to continue to scale. And development, I love development because it's a way that you can create value, especially in markets like we're in now, where it's expensive to acquire real estate right now. So you have to kind of get a little bit more creative in how you're adding value. You can't just go in and throw some new carpet in and paint the walls and expect to get this huge return. There's obviously risk associated with it. You need to understand your market. You need to understand the buyer demographics, what they're looking for, especially at the higher price points. If you're not in alignment design wise and where the buyer preferences are, within the current market, it can be difficult to be successful. But that's part of the reason I'm licensed too, because I do still work with clients. So I know what people are looking for. I know what people are looking for and can't find. And development gives you the opportunity to add some value and create your own inventory.
Right. Would you say, from a networking perspective, because you're in like that 5+ million range, right? When you're building some of these now.
Yep.
Would you say, from a networking perspective, pro athlete history, having some of those relationships, has that helped at all? Or what kind of demographic is it? Just business owners, athletes?
Yeah.
Like, has that helped you in your career as a developer?
So I have not done a fantastic job of, continuing to network with, other professional athletes, but,
Yeah,
definitely something I need to do a better job of. But you do, when you're working with other athletes, having, played and been in the space, there's definitely a level of, instant credibility that you have, just from having, been a part of the, the brotherhood, if you will. And
oh, yeah,
we've definitely done a number of transactions with, ex athletes, and, but I would say for the most part, I'd say the athlete piece of it is definitely a smaller percentage. It's a lot of people that are current business owners, people that have built businesses and, sold them and are now retired. So, there's a lot of different ways people, have made money, but a lot of real estate guys,
yeah,
but I would say it's definitely more, business owners and, real estate people, and like high level, like Fortune 500 company, presidents, vice presidents, so on and so forth that are buying, at the luxury space.
for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in Arizona right now. That's for sure.
Yes, there is. Yes.
The inflow.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned you're actually going to be able to keep one of these. Is that also like the high end development? And are you keeping that for yourself, or how are you gonna make the numbers work on that if you're going to keep it?
Yeah. So this one, if we do end up keeping it, it'll probably be, a midterm. It'll be a hybrid rental, so it'll be a midterm / short term rental. And it's,
Okay.
not super high end. It's not like in the $5 million price point, but, like sub 2
Yep.
million. So it's still a really nice house. Still not a cheap house by any means, but, this property in particular, purchased it off market. It was a hoarder house, pretty poor condition. And we ended up, in hindsight, I probably should have torn the house down. It would have been a little bit more of a straightforward build, but we ended up pretty much rebuilding the entire house. We took the roof off, changed the floor plan, moved the kitchen, added bathroom. So, effectively a brand new house, but it's on a big lot. It's like a 15,000 square foot lot. Excellent mountain views. It's conveniently located, so it's close to, the freeway. It's close to, the hospitals out here, so I think it could be a good, hold, for the portfolio. It's in a location that there's a lot of development happening right now, so I think it's going to be, next 3 to 5 years. I think it'll be a good location to hold real estate in. So excited about that one. But I'm also somebody like I'll probably list it for sale too, honestly. And if I can get a number that I'm happy with, I'll roll it into another project. And that's another thing I look at is like, kind of your velocity of money. Obviously, it's great to hold stuff. I'm a big believer in, holding real estate at some point in time, but I also think it's okay, if it makes sense to sell and you have something else to roll it into, take the opportunity and do that. And I do it actively. So that's why I have that philosophy. But we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the nice part. You don't have to make any decisions. You have a lot of opportunities to make different decisions along the way, depending on how the market goes and kind of how things play out.
Absolutely.
How are you seeing the market in Arizona right now? We've seen an uptick, in Seattle recently of prices, even with rates stabilizing right around 7%. Are you guys seeing, prices start to go back up in Arizona? Or
yeah, we are. Kind of second week into January, things started to tick back up, and it's progressively gotten busier and busier as we've moved into 2024. We still have an inventory problem. Inventory is better than it was during COVID, but there's still not a lot of great inventory on the market. The great inventory that's in good locations is moving quickly. We are seeing situations where there's many buyers interested. If you're in a great location. I actually just finished up a deal here that we put under contract before it even hit the market. And I still have people, calling me, asking me about the property. And it's in an A+ neighborhood. It's a new house, and it's priced to market. And so I think, if you're priced to market, you're in a good neighborhood, in a good school district, things are still moving, really, really quickly. And hopefully we can bring some more inventory to the marketplace and keep it going. But I definitely have a bullish outlook on Arizona long term. There's a lot of job growth here, a lot of opportunity, quality of life's fantastic, and we still have a lot of people wanting to move here. So those are all good things.
I'm with you.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
Before we move on, what does your business look like now? I know you're getting into flips, and you're basically got your hands in all things with broker flips development. Maybe just talk a little bit about like your day to day and kind of how you structured your business.
Yeah, for sure. So I am an agent. So I do still do traditional retail business. I help buyers and sellers buy and sell. I help a lot of investors, invest, and kind of as a subset to the retail business. And my wife is licensed as well, but we also consult with builders and developers and investors and help them, not only find deals, but we'll help manage a project if it makes sense, and help them from a planning standpoint to make sure they're bringing the appropriate home to market. So from a design perspective, floor plan, layout, we consult on all that stuff. So that's kind of one piece of our business, and then we obviously have the development piece where we're actively doing that. Building, new homes, doing, remodels and additions. And that piece of our business is growing right now. We started with, the retail piece and kind of learned the business, learned the ropes, and, did smaller scale projects. And now, we're kind of, ramping that up. And we do sometimes, if the deal makes sense, we'll bring in outside investors. I tend to keep the circle pretty small from that perspective, but we do have a couple people that put money into our deals, and we'll structure joint ventures from that side of thing. And then obviously the investing piece is kind of the third piece. And my focus really in the last couple of years since COVID has been more on the retail and development piece, and really building that side of our business up to kind of maximize the cash flow from that piece of the business. And now, we're starting to look into, holding some more of the stuff that we're doing, and creating enough value spread where we can, really execute the burn model effectively and, get most of our money back out and keep recycling it and keep the velocity of that capital going. So that's a high level overview of the business, but so kind of 3-4 sectors of the business, if you will.
No, I love that. That's in terms of kind of what I'm looking at. That's a very similar business model in terms of the investment side, development side. Buy and hold as much as possible. Kind of cherry picking the best opportunities as a broker and kind of keeping those for your own portfolio.
Absolutely.
Or as potential flips. So I love it. So I guess that's kind of where you see yourself, 5-10 years from now. Is there a particular area of the business that you like the best? Or kind of where would you like to spend the majority of your time, let's say 10 years from now, if you're looking ahead?
Yeah, I've always loved the development side of things. It's a fun way to kind of to create and express, your creative side. I think it's super cool to take something, whether you're remodeling something that's existing or tearing something down and building something new. I think it's a cool way to express, your creativity. My wife does a lot of our design, so I'm able to work with my wife, and we work well together. I know not all spouses are able to work together, but we're able to work together kind of in our own lanes. So development piece is definitely something that we'll continue to scale. I love that side of things. I do have an interest in potentially getting. So right now we only do residential. I do have an interest in kind of maybe transitioning into doing some more commercial stuff. Like the commercial space as well. So that's next 5 to 10 years. Those are kind of my goals, is to continue to grow our development business. Maybe make the transition into doing some commercial stuff, and then we'll always continue to do the retail. And, most of our retail business is referral based. We don't really do any marketing. We get a lot of sign calls and, business through our development deals and the inventory that we have. And then, family, friends, people from social media, whatever, reaching out and asking for help is really where most of our retail business comes. And we'll continue to do that. But really scaling the development piece is a goal here in the foreseeable future.
Love it.
Yep.
What would be one tip that you would have for other people that are thinking about working with their spouse or are married and want to work it as a team? How are you making that so successful for you guys?
Yeah, I would say a huge point of emphasis if you want to work with your spouse is really defining what each other's responsibilities and roles are, and being staying true to that. So like from my perspective, I'll give you an example. So I handle most of our acquisitions and dispositions and financing, investor relations, all that kind of stuff. So I'm more on the administrative side, if you will, and then my wife kind of handles more of the design, making sure contractors show up, making sure they're doing the right work. And so we have our lanes, and I respect her lane. Like from a design perspective, like unless it's something I absolutely hate and I think is not going to sell, I let her do her thing. And she's super talented, which makes it easy to do. But I'd say define your roles and stay true to what that role is, and try not to. And this is much easier said than done. Try not to let your work life slip into your personal life. There's got to be a time, where you kind of, can shut it off, and try not to carry work over, into your personal life. And that's much easier said than done. We still do it, but we've been, able to have, good balance, which has allowed us to work together.
Yeah. No, those are great tips. I'm in the same boat right now. My wife retired last year to go full-time real estate.
Yeah.
So we're in that process of defining roles and making sure that we're, not stepping on each other's toes, giving each other a chance to be successful in their own right.
Yeah.
So it's work in progress. It all takes time, but those are great tips.
And it's fluid. Like it changes. So like my wife was actually licensed before I was. So, she was early on, she was doing all the real estate stuff because I didn't have my license. And so it can change over time, but you have to start somewhere, and you can adjust it and make changes as need be. But you got to stay in your seat.
For sure. All right. Well, before we let you go, we always love to ask our guests, Nick, why do you love real estate?
I love real estate because there are endless ways to do whatever it is that you want to do. There's no ceiling, there's no cap to what's possible in real estate. I truly believe that real estate is the best asset class that we have access to. We have much better access here in America than, a lot of other people do in other parts of the world. And that's why I love it, is because the possibilities and what you can achieve in real estate are endless. You can create generational wealth. You can create excellent cash flow. If you do it the right way, you can live a lifestyle that, most people never have the opportunity to experience. So that's why I love real estate.
There you go. You heard it here, folks. I hope you guys are taking notes. And thank you so much, Nick, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Absolutely. I hope to see you at Limitless again this summer.
Sounds good.
And let's talk soon. And thanks again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.